Innumerable times lately have I been asked, what's the best loadout for a tac squad in this or that legion? Well, heretics, I am here to bring light into your hobby darkness. Though, not by telling you the best loadout, as that's not really how heresy works. So, without further ado, here is my quote-unquote expert opinion on the humble tactical squad. So first and foremost, every player is going to want to start with at least 2 squads of 10. Why is that? Well, tac squads form the backbone of almost any Legion army, and will always have a place in your collection. But more than that, it will allow you to get playing the game as soon as possible. If you bought the Age of Darkness box, which is probably the best way to get into the game at present, then you will have 40 of these guys lying about to play with. With the changes to the rules so that line units are incredibly important, now more than ever are there reasons to take tactical marines. Now, is that to say that you should only have tacticals? Or that these squads should always be 20 strong? Well, no. But in some legions, you will certainly want that. World Eaters, for example, would much rather take 20 strong units of despoilers or assault marines with an apothecary for survivability. Typically, these things come down to the flavour of your legion and the right of war you are building towards. So, let's talk upgrades. Starting at the top, we'll look at what the upgrade is, what it does, and which legions may want it. First, we have the humble Rhino. Now, not every legion's going to want to take rhinos and do the old Rhino Rush strategy, but it is very useful in keeping your units alive. Downsides are, it's an extra 35 points, it's also more money to spend. Generally though, I think most people will have 1 or 2 rhinos in their collection. I myself have 2 that have just sat in a box for years, not doing anything. And this is because you can't charge from a rhino. You just have to get out and wait, and typically you're either shot to death or charged. So I think most people think rhinos are better for veteran tacticals who can get out, pop their combi plasma or combi melter, and then if they die, well, you've usually got your points back. But anyway, moving on, we have the Nuncio Vox. Now, this is a fantastic piece of war gear, especially for an army that's going to have reserves deep striking in. Now, if you can draw a line of sight from where the deep striking unit's coming in to any Vox on the table, you get to re-roll that scatter, which is absolutely invaluable. Also, it allows you to ignore the leadership penalty of night fighting. This, I'd say, is pretty much an auto-include in any legion that's going to have deep striking supports. Stuff like Raven Guard, where you've got those Dark Furies jumping in to charge people. You don't want them to scatter and be in real trouble. So I would take for 10 points a squad, I would take a Vox on it, almost every squad. But that's just me. Next up, we have a new inclusion, the Augury Scanner. So this allows you to stop enemies being deployed via infiltrate within 18 inches of you. It also allows you to ignore the 24-inch limit of line of sight during night fighting. And the most important option for this, whenever an enemy unit is deployed from reserve, you get a chance to intercept it. That's just free. You just get to do that. Doesn't mean you can take a second reaction on that unit, but what it means is you can exceed your normal allowance, which is crazy. Like, you've got a squad of tactical marines, 20 tactical marines with an Augury Scanner, some Terminators deep strike in, suddenly, you've got like potentially 40 shots at these guys, just absolutely shooting them off the table before they can even do anything. That seems pretty damn good for the points. Next up, we have the Legion Vexilla. Changed quite a bit from first edition, where I quite liked what it did. Now it gives you +1 to combat resolution, which is quite good. Allows you to only choose to fall back D6 from combat if you want, which again is quite good. And you can't run off the edge of the board with it. So again, if you're running a 20-man squad of guys, this is definitely one of those 10-point upgrades that you're probably going to want to throw on them just for a bit of security. Next up is probably the most controversial thing, the thing that I keep hearing people ask me constantly. New players going, do I take bayonets? Do I take chain bayonets? What do they do? Basically, a bayonet just gives you +1 strength for 1 point each. That's pretty good. A chain bayonet gives you the +1 strength and shred, which is reroll to wound in combat, which is fantastic, but at the fairly hefty price of 2 points per model. So you really got to weigh up how much that's worth to you. In some armies, like Raven Guard, if you're playing Orbital Assault, you drop these guys in, they pop out the drop pod, pop off some shots and then get charged. You're going to want to have a chain bayonets just as a bit of backup. Again, close combat armies like Emperor's Children are probably going to want to have chain bayonets on their tacticals. Does everybody have to take it? Is it an auto-include? No, of course it's not. I don't think there's any auto-include in Heresy, really. Speaking of controversial opinions, a lot of people have been very wrong about this, and trust me when I say this. I know how this is supposed to be worded. Yes, okay, it was worded incorrectly, but when the FAQ comes out, believe me, I'll be right on this one. Your tacticals only get 1 attack base. Don't listen to any of the rubbish where people are trying to be cheesy because the words are a little bit ambiguous. No. Your tacticals get 1 attack base. You want 2 attacks, either buy the chainsword or take despoilers. That's it. And speaking of, the next piece of war gear is a chainsword. Again, it gives you shred in close combat. And we're talking at 5 points per model for these things. This is a hefty investment. I mean, this is the old equivalent of taking extra close combat weapons, but now they give you shred as well. It's only at strength user, so it's strength 4. That's still not bad. And it gives you an extra attack. This is the only way to get extra attacks on tacticals outside of rules like rage and things like that. The extra close combat weapon that you are paying for here gives you an extra attack because you have a chainsword and a bolt pistol. That is it. So I think these are a pretty solid upgrade. Again, on close combat legions, it's going to be worth the investment. If you get charged, I mean, you're probably not going to want chain bayonets and chainswords. You're going to want chainswords, probably. But either way, neither one will be a bad option for you. Now, we're on to the Sergeant. I'm not going to talk too much about how he can be loaded out, because again, that comes down to taste. Really, you want him... It depends what kind of legion you're running. Some are going to absolutely minimum him out. You're just going to have, basic equipment on him, and well, whatever, if he dies, he dies. Some people are going to want to tool him to the nines. However, I would always suggest Artificer armor at 10 points, now that Sergeants are way harder to kill with the death selection method in this game, and I would always suggest melter bombs as well. This means you can always harm vehicles. You charge in, you throw a melter bomb at them, okay, it might not do anything, but at least you've got that option. Unless you take something like a Power Fist, in which case, you're slightly worse off in challenges, but, there's pros and cons to everything. So, all in all, the tactical squad is the meat and potatoes of your army. You're going to need them to score those objectives. You're going to need them, so build tacticals. That's my advice. You want to build something, build 20 tacs and a Delegatus to start, and you will be set to play the game. And when the time comes around that you've scaled up your army a bit, suddenly that Delegatus becomes a Praetor. The model's functionally the same. So, yeah, that's my advice. Enjoy playing. Don't worry about what's the best thing to take. Just try and work out what works for you. And enjoy Heresy. And love your Legion. That's what we're talking about.